Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're trying to get a handle on Congress and these new tariffs.
Yeah, there's talk about maybe stepping in because of this whole power balance thing with the president.
Exactly. We're looking at a Politico report covering what House Speaker Mike Johnson said at an Axios event recently.
Okay.
And our goal here is really to unpack this dynamic, between Congress and the White House on trade, especially with the economy doing some, well, interesting things lately.
It's definitely interesting that Speaker Johnson is even talking about a potential imbalance of power on trade. You don't always hear that explicitly.
Right. He basically said, look, the executive branch has a broad array of authority that's been recognized over the years for trade. That's sort of the baseline.
Standard practice, really. Congress delegated a lot of that.
But then he added the important part. If it gets close to where the imbalance is there, then we would step in. So it sounds like there's a line, a potential tripwire.
Yeah, it suggests Congress is watching. They've given power, but they're aware they might need to pull it back or at least to suit themselves if things go too far off track. It's about their constitutional role.
But for these specific new tariffs, he seems to be saying, hold your horses.
Right.
He mentioned it's only been, what did he say, about 3 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. Very short time frame.
And his quote was, I don't think it's appropriate for Congress to jump in the middle of that and try to legislate.
So the initial approach is more dialogue.
Seems like it. He suggested talking to the president first, and actually he sounded kind of optimistic, saying, right now, I think ultimately this policy is going to achieve the desired outcome, and it's going to be good for the country.
That's a patient stance. It signals, let's let the executive's policy play out a bit first, see what happens.
But it's not just passive waiting, is it? Because wasn't there also a move by Johnson to stop any efforts in the House to cancel these tariffs?
That's right. He actively blocked it. Even though some Republicans apparently wanted to push back against the tariffs, Johnson used procedural means to prevent that legislation from moving forward.
So on one hand, saying let's wait, but on the other, actively protecting the policy from challenge within his own chamber.
Exactly. It's a bit complex. Defending the executive's current action, at least for now.
Okay, so let's bring in the economic side. Because right around this time, we saw the Dow Jones take a pretty big hit.
Yeah, it dropped about 500 points. That always makes headlines. It followed news the economy had actually shrunk a bit.
And almost immediately, former President Trump was on social media
Predictably, yeah.
saying things like, Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th, trying to distance himself from the dip.
And linking it back to his own policies, presumably.
Oh, definitely. He followed up saying, tariffs will soon start kicking in, and companies are starting to move into the USA in record numbers. Our country will boom.
So he's framing the tariffs as the solution, not the problem, and basically saying, just wait. Dismissing any link between the tariffs and the current economic wobbles.
Right. He's calling for patience, essentially arguing the tariffs haven't even really started to work their magic yet.
It sets up quite a contrast, doesn't it? You've got the market reacting nervously to economic news, the former president doubling down on tariffs being good, and the current House Speaker saying, let's wait and see, while also acknowledging Congress could step in eventually.
It really does. So if we boil it down, Congress, or at least the Speaker, sees this potential power issue with trade. They're watching these new tariffs, but they're hitting pause on any intervention for now.
Right, despite some economic concerns popping up and very different messaging coming from the previous administration.
There's definitely a tension there, that potential for action versus the current sort of wait and see.
And the economic data going forward, plus how these tariffs actually impact things on the ground, that's going to be really key.
Absolutely. So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Given Speaker Johnson's current stance, this cautious approach, what would it actually take? What kind of economic data, or maybe what further actions, might finally push Congress to say, okay, the imbalance is here, now we step in on trade?
Yeah, what's that trigger point?
It's definitely something we'll be keeping an eye on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.